Alrighty, I want to take a look today at something that I've been thinking about lately, and it's essentially like a reality fracture, a reality split. So, what I have seen happening, there's a lot of issues that are causing this. COVID, and we've got the gender stuff, and like even flat earth stuff. So, basically, fundamental worldviews that people have that just cause them to see everything differently than other people. Now, this has always been true. People of different religions basically see fundamentally different things when they look at the world. Um, but what seems to be happening is like a fracturing where people from one group worldview, like they don't fucking want to be anywhere near people that are not sharing their worldview. And so to some degree this has always been true, right? But the it went from like 1 to 100 really, really quickly. And I don't think it's going to be stopping anytime soon, but that's what I want to look at here. Basically the fractures that have happened in what people perceive and what people believe, um, and where does this go? Do the fractures keep getting deeper? Are they going to sort of disappear? Are people going to learn to live together again? Or are we all going to end up in little countries of only people that believe the same shit that we do? You know, like what the fuck is going on? So that's what I'm looking at here. Reality fractures and like where does it go? So the main cards. The Justice card is at the root, and the main card is the reversed world. So the world shows a natural ending, right? It's the last card of tarot, and it basically shows like some sort of graduation from one world to the next. And here the world is reversed. So it would basically be like something has kind of run its course, but it's not allowed to end. And on the bottom there, I mean, that sort of sits on the foundation of the Justice card. And the Justice card is about truth, but it's really about trying to see something without bias, seeing something fairly and without any sort of like emotional bias for sure. Let's just see what's on either side of this world. And I think we're going to do like a past to future thing here. All right. So our past card shows judgment. And so the judgment card is the one that comes right before the world. This is the 22, or the 20 and the 21. This is actually the 22nd card of tarot, and this is the 21st, because the Fool is the 0. But anyway, we have the last two cards of tarot here. For the last two major arcana cards to show up in succession, it does show, number one, the natural progression of energy, but it also does show essentially one version of the world coming to an end. Now, what the world reversed is really showing is that for some reason it's not allowed to end. Like it should end, but it isn't allowed to. The Judgment card also, this is like one big event, I guess, that sort of puts this all into place. It's like the trumpet blast, you know, that everybody hears. Now, Judgment into the reverse world, into the reverse 10 of Wands. So the 10 of Wands is basically a bunch of work. that needs to be done. It is the burden that you bear if you're trying to get something done. And the 10 of Wands reversed is basically when that burden gets too great and you would collapse under the weight. So here, with the foundation of justice, which would theoretically talk about fairness and truth, we have a natural ending of, I guess, the way the world has been. But here it's like, because the world card is reversed and we're not able to move into the next version, that causes the 10 of Wands to be reversed, and it's like we collapse under the weight. Now, all right, I just want to pull a card to see what it looks like if the world card is not reversed. So the natural ending or the succession or whatever, what does that look like? And a 7 of Wands shows coming out of a place of restriction. So restriction is probably the thing here. Restriction is probably the thing that is really going to signify the reverse world. So the reversed world is keeping us from moving into the next chapter of society. And the restriction is basically what is keeping that from happening. So the world is reversed because of restriction. So let's see where the restriction is coming from. I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but let's just see what the cards have to say. And it's a reversed Page of Cups, actually. That's not what I expected. But the reverse Page of Cups would basically show emotional immaturity and emotional sourness. The reverse Page of Cups is like an out of sorts spoiled child. And I mean, I can see that all over the place in all of these different like little groups of people who are not really accepting of each other or getting along or whatever the fuck. There is emotional immaturity for sure coming out of grown fucking people, right? Like a bunch of spoiled fucking children. And here, this is what is causing the restriction. And it is what's keeping the world from moving forward into the next version of society. And this shows that eventually the weight will become too much and it will crush us. Okay. Now, I kind of do want to see what this looks like. Is this going to be a fucking war, or like what's going on with this reverse 10 and the reverse 10 of Swords would just show suffering, like everyone. I don't know if it would talk about a sickness, but it could. But it would be the suffering of sickness at the very least. You would feel like shit even if you weren't sick. And it looks like as this moves forward with this sort of fracturing of realities without it being allowed to like flow freely, we would all suffer. We would all feel like shit. And here with the 10 of Wands, like it would eventually just become too much for us to bear. Now, this reverse Page of Cups is key, I think. Normally, the Page of Cups is an emotionally optimistic, naive, perhaps, healer, right? The page finds the fish flopping around on the beach, puts the fish in the cup, brings him back to the ocean. Fish rewards him with a pearl. It's like this great little um, interaction that happens. They both win. And that can only happen because the page is emotionally pure. You know, if the page was all pissed off and they saw the fish on the beach, they might fucking kick him. You know, they might just be like, whatever, good for you, fish. I hope you die. You know, now, this would be that kind of thing. So, if there's anything that we can do to try to keep our society from fracturing into fucking idiot pieces, it would be trying to be more emotionally, I guess, open, or at least less like a spoiled child, you know? Okay. Let's just pull these in here. Now, let's see if we can get a good look at what is truly causing this fracture. And it's a compound answer, but let's just see what the cards say about what is truly causing this. So we have a reverse King of Swords and the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups is confusion. I can see how all of the electronic stuff is going to show up this way, being bombarded with so many different like messages and all of the dopamine responses that come from the different apps and shit on our phone and all of this stuff. How that can eventually sort of confuse our systems. And the reverse King of Swords is like an insane dictator. And now I do want to pull one more on the King because I want to see if this is like actual orders being given from somewhere or if this just shows people's inner insane dictator. Okay. The Wheel of Fortune. So this is like some sort of galactic thing. This would be coming from fucking space. So the Wheel of Fortune would say it's the Great Web or whatever, the Great Galactic Clock. So it's kind of coming from reality itself. And normally the King of Swords, Jean-Luc Picard, this is the one that makes the decisions that are based on logic and reason. And they are fair. Maybe they are fair but firm, right? The King of Swords reversed is more like Kim Jong-un, where they're like an insane dictator. And logic and reason are thrown out the window. They can be really malicious, vindictive, like times 10. So we have this sort of energy combined with just this sort of confusion. And so I would assume that a lot of this is coming from the fact that human beings are not necessarily wired for the modern world. However many years of humans being on the planet and we didn't have any of this shit, and suddenly, our brains are faced with all of this stuff that is quote unquote unnatural, right? But what the Wheel of Fortune is saying is that it's kind of coming from the Great Web. It's coming from the universe. So this is kind of bound to happen to us. All right. So where does it go? is this long-term? Is it temporary? What do we got? Well, this is the first kind of positive card that I've seen coming out of this reading, but the King of Wands is the role model. The King of Wands is the one who does what they think is right for the world. And here's all the kids, they gather around the king, and the king isn't telling them what he thinks they should do. He's just being himself. And they're so inspiring to the people around them that the people around them try to be like them. So eventually, the sort of King of Wands energy, it looks like it does get activated, or like it kind of comes out, but it looks like it comes out after everything kind of falls to shit. I'm going to see if we can get a timeline on how long it takes everything to really fall to shit, which, well, let's just see what it says. Between now and the burden getting too great, and we get the same card there. All right. The reversed Ten of Wands. So as far as a timeline goes, I would say 10, I want to say months. I don't want to say years. But it's probably years, like 10 years. But maybe not. 10 months. For some reason, I think 10 months is probably closer to the truth. So this is not a very shiny, happy timeline there, but on the other side of things, we do have King of Wands energy coming out, and eventually people realize that you can't change other people's minds about things, and you probably shouldn't anyway. But if you be the best example of yourself, that you might inspire other people, right? Instead of forcibly trying to change other people, which is what the reverse King of Swords would do. And the reverse King of Swords would, if you don't agree with me, then you would be put to death, That is classic reverse King of Swords. Like, you will agree with me or else. And the King of Wands is essentially the fucking complete opposite of that. So, it looks like things will get worse for a while. And then they will improve, I guess. So, what have I not asked about, or what else do we got going on in here? The reverse Chariot and the Three of Wands. So the Three of Wands is patiently growing something. Very creative energy, and it's very nurturing and loving. And the reverse Chariot is basically like being completely stuck. So this is like, I think it might be about not being even sure what it is that we're trying to nurture. It's like not knowing what to nurture anymore. And also feeling like this nurturing energy that you have is essentially just fucking stuck in a box. Like just not really knowing what to do with it. Which is kind of depressing. Let's see if there's one that wants to come out as like in the microcosm. What can we do about this? And the reverse world says not really. Because the world isn't being allowed to make its natural progression. Something is halting it. And it's like being stuck in this fucking weird ass moment. So, I guess maybe things will start to look better in 10 months or 10 years. But until then, It's like try not to get crushed under the weight of the world that is broken but doesn't seem to change. So I would love to hear what you think about this. Feel free to let me know. And that's what we have for now. Peace.